Hello, my name is Zac Carder. I am a service technician with Landmark. Today I'm going to be talking about the 600 and 700 series Flex Drapers, maintenance and adjustments.
My name is Dan Archer. I'm a parts manager with Landmark. Today I'll be talking about common wear items on the 6 and 700 series platforms.
So today we're on the 600 series platform right now. One of the main things we're looking at going into wheat is our beginning hookups and our adjustments. So the first thing we're going to do is hook the head to the combine mechanical wise, but the hydraulic and electric side starts right here at the single point. The number one wear item and the number one thing everybody does is put that coupler in just like that. Dirty on both the combine side and the header side. We want to take electrical contact cleaner and clean all these points and down in here in the electrical connector very well. What happens is this little bit of debris that's up here on the end of the coupler will actually go into the hydraulic system on the combine side. We want to prevent that contamination as much as possible, so get that clean going into wheat. As we're standing here on the left hand side of the platform, main things to look for when hooking up is your drive shaft going into your header on the feeder house. So number one thing, back shaft speed. When we're coming out of corn, high back shaft speed. We always run that head up there 600-700 RPM. We want to make sure we get back shaft speed down around 500. Specs say 490 to 530 RPM. Get that hooked up, then we're looking at grease zerks on the main drive shaft going to our main Flex Draper drive gear case. We also have two grease zerks going down on this other drive shaft going down to the center Draper drive gear case. We also have a bunch of gear cases in here that are filled with 80-90 gear weight oil. The main ones right here. Our drain plug is over here on this side. You can't really see it, but so this would be the fill plug and your level plug right here, filled to the bottom of the hole for oil level on this gear case. The 700's on the other side. So in here, when we're talking about the center Draper drive gear case, right here where the shield is the grease zerk and the drive line U-joint that we're talking about. Now this gear case is also filled with 80-90 weight gear oil, and we're looking up here at the breather. That's your fill. Your drain and your level fill is down below that.
Okay, there.
So now moving out here to the left-hand side of the platform, we got our main reel drive pump. This drives our real actual bat wing speed. Just make sure we got no leaks on the hoses. As we keep working over, we're getting closer to the Draper drive belt system, belt drive motor. It's just not just the motor. Inside this motor is also driving a gear case, and that gear case is filled with oil. Drain and fill plug is right there, right here on the gear case. Again, as we're working over here to the left-hand side, we've got more hydraulic hoses. Then we get closer down here to our in Draper belt tension. So down here on the left-hand side of the head, we're talking about Draper belt tension. And this is the tension of either you're on a 630 and you have one side belt, or anything 35 to 45 has two sets of Draper belts per side. This is the tension that we're talking about. We want to run this tension right in the center of the green. We see the green right here with the two black arrows. That's where we're going to run it. So now to adjust that, we come around here on the left-hand side of the head. We got two adjusters. Now the big adjuster, that's for actual belt tension. That's where we're going to set it on that gauge on that side. Now, once we get the tension set and we're right in the middle of the green, we want to have an operator in the cab and somebody standing right where I'm standing and looking down these belts. Once he fires it up, you get it running at idle. You're also going to sit here and watch the belt tracking, is what they call it. Now, if that belt starts to work its way down towards the sickle drive, we adjust that tracking with the small screw up on top. When we tighten that screw, we're bringing the belt back up track. The belt tracking that we're talking about, if you look down here on this side, that belt closest to the center feed drum, see how close it's getting to that front cutter bar? This is where we would adjust that tracking. Now, of course, we got to be running, because as soon as we change it with it not running, it's going to get really screwed up. But as that belt's sitting here running, we want to bring it uphill, closer to that center feed drum. So we're over here on the left-hand side of the head, talking about our two gear cases and our drive shaft. So on this, there are two gear cases. We have the 90-degree gear case, and it takes power off of the back shaft to drive our snipe drive gear case. This gear case has a drain plug and it has a dipstick to check the oil, and it is 80-90 weight. Dipstick's right on top of the gear case. Grease zerk wise, we're just looking at the U-joints again. We're also looking at our header float arms and our hydraulic cylinders that run those float arms when we're in flex mode. Same thing, hydraulic hoses, leaks on the cylinders. When we get talking about the center sections, when we talk about these hydraulic hoses and these cylinders, they will leak and you will not see them. When you are running through the field and the combine will be out of oil and we don't know why. That is very important. Now as we're working down towards the knife drive, we have this knife drive gear case. It is filled from the factory with 21 ounces of TY 6351 grease. Not often do you have to go in there and check it. It is one of them things that if it leaks, it probably needs a bearing and probably needs replaced. If we do need to check it, there's a fill plug right here. So right here is the level plug. The fill plug is up here in the very top of the gear case. That is the fill plug, that is your level plug. So down here on the bottom of the knife drive gear case is actually where the knife drive gear case connects to the sickle. Now this sickle has a little bushing down inside of here, little plastic white bushing. It is a replaceable part. You do not have to replace the entire sickle. Now when we go in for pre-season, we want to check the alignment of this sickle drive to the guards themselves. So right down in here is where the adjustment would be. We see how the sickle knife is sitting right in the middle of the guard. That's what we want to see. So we make that adjustment right here at the knife drive head. Loosen the bolt, sit here and turn this to get it right dead center of the guard. So one of the major differences between a 6 and a 700 is the divider point. The divider point on a 600 is spring loaded. So as we're going through the field in soft conditions, that divider point's allowed to float. There is a little bit of adjustment. There is a screw way down in here to tighten the spring up, which will naturally bring the divider point up, which is all the way maxed out now. So up here when we're on the front of the head, we're still kind of on the left-hand side. We're looking at belt condition. Now belt condition can be made many different ways. As we're looking here at the leading edge of the belt, we can also see wear or tears in this belt. That does not condemn the belt. When we look for major tears that will condemn to make a belt replacement is a tear that starts either down here at the leading edge and makes it all the way up into here. Now, a 4-inch tear, a 6-inch tear, or an 8-inch tear is time to condemn. If you have little inch tears, especially up there at the top, you can get by with that for a little bit longer. 6 to 8-inch tear will eventually snap the belt in two, and then we're looking at replacing it right there in the field. Now we're looking down here at our crop ramps. The only real thing to look at as far as the crop ramp goes is it's plastic on top of steel. Now if you start to see steel, it's time to replace them. Hold downs on the sickle are always set to about 20 thousandths. Everybody, the quickest way and the most efficient way is to take a business card, which is 20 thousandths thick, and stick it right here between the sickle and the hold down. And you adjust it by the bolt in the back. Too tight, you're gonna have a lot of extended wear. Too loose, and that sickle sits there and it's allowed to jump and it'll catch a guard and snap it. Now I'm gonna let Dan take over this part about high wear, low wear, high wear and standard wear, and long, short, short, long sickles.
So as you can see on this head came out with green guards. There's two different guards on each head. There's a long, short, long point, and then a short, long, short point. Both green or black. They're interchangeable. They're all the same. The only difference is the green is a high wear guard, and the black is the standard wear. And really, it just matters on personal preference, what you prefer to use. The standard wear about $21, and the extended wear are $31. So really, it just matters on what you want to use. Now, as far as the sickles, there's two basic sickles that people use. This one is set up for a double long like this one, but it's coarse. Most people use this one. It's more of a general purpose sickle. Down here in wheat country, a lot of guys like to pull this knife out and put a fine tooth double long one in. It just does a lot better job of cutting the wheat, makes the straw nice clean cut on the straw.
So we're now here at the center of the head. What we're going to talk about first is the center set of guards. The center set of guards have a special set of adjustments because we're running two sickles, one on top of the other. Now the way we adjust that is on the very bottom, like right here, this right hand side sickle is underneath of the left hand side. So we're going to measure from the bottom of the very lowest sickle to the top of the upper guard. We want that gap to be 1/4 of an inch, not 20 thousandths. We needed 1/4 of an inch because we have two sickles running on top of each other. So we got to have enough clearance for both sickles to run. Crop ramp, same thing. These are stainless steel, a little bit higher wear. We start to see holes in them, that's when we'll replace. Center draper belt, same idea. If we're seeing tears in the main rib of the belt, we're not going to condemn it quite yet. It's the tears coming in from the sides that will eventually grow and snap the belt. Center belt tension we'll talk about on the right hand side. Feed drum, main thing we're looking for there is the center fingers. Make sure there's none that are broke, because if they break, they'll go through the feeder house and go into the combine. We also want to check that bushing that's in between those fingers, right in here. Little loose, that's okay. If that bushing and all this is hammered out, that finger can actually fall inside of the drum and break, and that's what causes them to snap off. Stainless steel feed floor, only thing we're looking for there is holes in the feed floor. Up top, we'll talk about the reel. So reel fingers, simple thing there. If they're broke, we'll replace them. We're also looking in here at the main reel drive bushings, and that's the bushing right here. Now on this head, yeah, that's play. It is not excessive. What will happen is the bushing will be fine, but it will actually wear through the tube and the tube will break. So that's where we want to pick this up and look in here and make sure we got plenty of steel left in that reel tube. Center reel drive on a 40, you have a center reel drive motor, so that's the same thing, hydraulic leaks, motor leaks, hose leaks. On a 40 we also have a center raised lower for the reel, and that's those two cylinders way there in the back. So we want to check those two hydraulic cylinders, make sure there's no leaks, make sure the hoses aren't pinched. Overall condition of the center flex. So over here on the right hand side of the head, identical to the left hand side, we still have a 90-degree gear case filled with 80-90 gear weight oil. It does have a dipstick to check, just like on the left hand side. We have grease zerks on the main drive shaft, and we have a 90-degree knife drive gear case that is factory filled with grease, and if it's puking oil, we need to get something done with it. Down here on the bottom, we have the same adjustment down here on the knife drive sickle. We have that little white bushing, and we have the same adjustment just on the left hand side. If there's any play in that, it is junk. And Dan, this is that little white bushing, and it's what, 10 bucks?
Yeah.
To replace that. Back here on the right hand side is the same draper belt adjust. Big bolt is for tension, little bolt is for tracking. Same way we're checking it on the left hand side. So now that we're underneath of this 640 Flex Draper platform, one thing to take account of is our off-ground header height sensing setup. When we're off-ground, we want these down. Now there's 3 of them on a 600 Flex Draper platform, and there's 4 of them on a 700 Flex Draper platform. There's also a grease zerk down in here that greases the pivot for these arms. I think it's a $200 grease zerk fitting. Another thing to take account for is our yellow wear pads. This is what actually contacts the ground when we're in flex mode on ground cutting. So now we're in the center section on this 600 Flex Draper platform. The center draper belt tension is right here on this bolt. Now we want the head of this bolt to be flush with this steel on the side of this arm. We also have this really handy clean out door. That is to clean the debris that build up on the back side of the center belt and back up in this here chamber. We also, throughout the whole platform, can't really see them very well from over here, but every float arm, every other float arm, has a cylinder and a hose. This is where I was talking about if the combine runs out of oil and nobody knows where it goes because the combine's clean, look at these cylinders and these hoses. That is where the oil goes. Now we are on a 700 Flex Draper platform. We're going to talk about some of the few differences between the two machines. On the 700, we got an option between the heavy duty reel finger. We also down here on the draper belt system have a reversible draper belt. That means that if we're seeing a little bit of wear and tear along the leading edge of these ribs, we can flip this belt endo for endo, and that brings the nice square rib back down here to the cutter bar.
So in the center belt for the 600 and 700 series, the 600 series is more of a ribbed style belt, where the 700 is more of a treaded style belt, kind of smoother feeding option. If you're experiencing crop wrapping underneath these side belts and carrying back out underneath, John Deere offers this seal kit, which bolts right underneath the frame underneath this belt. It kind of helps shield that and prevent that crop from building up underneath there and getting carried out underneath the belt. I believe that part number is a BXE 10959. So if you have any questions on anything that we covered today, leave a comment on the bottom or contact your local Landmark dealership.